Chapter 4 Nests. Nice of you to finally show up, Chiella chided them on the platform. The NADF is rounding up sacks like kids scooping up candy under a piñata. People are freaking out. Nice to see you too, Zara said, heaving up her bag. Thanks for the update, Jude said, patting his shoulder. They did the trick. They are permanent, right? Of course, I do quality work. Depending on how this goes down, we may need to start mass producing these things. Adams tracks every passport, even mine. It can identify every former SAC resident, which could make them targets later. But mine rewrites the historical data. If you have my passport, as far as Adams knows, you were never in a SAC. Jude and Zara had a hard time keeping up with Chiella's punishing pace as they walked up to a familiar-looking EJ-150. Didn't I already modify this thing? It's a new one. Max wants you to fix this one up like the other one. An EJ-500 is a lot more useful, Chiella said. So, what did I miss on the train? Zara asked, turning on her phone. The Sparrows got the evacuation message for the most part, and people are working together, but the NADF is moving fast. People are starting to stream into cities, and they have no idea where to go at first. They are desperate to see any sign of the Sparrows, Chiella explained. We need to get organized. We need to identify nests and find a way to get that info to SAC people without the government catching wind of what we're doing. We've got to be able to protect the nest leaders. This is going to take a lot of work. And creativity, Jude said. Does Max still have that stash of mini drones we recovered in DC? I might have an idea. Here are some insights. For context, you might have picked up on this from the excerpt, but Chiella has managed to create passport chips that kind of fake out Adams. She's rewritten the historical data, so it's your identity, and it doesn't indicate that you ever used to live in a SAC or anything like that. It just gives you your identity and where you're from, so Adams can't track who all these people were that used to live in SACs, because they could be targets. So that's how Jude and Zara got out of detention. Jude, Zara, and Callum actually did not stay in detention very long at all because Max smuggled in some chips that Chiella made and reprogrammed, and they slipped them in. And then when they got scanned, the flags went away, and they're like, "We don't know why you're here," and so they were able to get out. And they're going to start mass producing the chips that rewrite the data so that they can help people who used to live in SACs not be targeted by Adams. Another context in this chapter, if you read it, corporate Congress and the Senate voted to eliminate the SAC agreement. And there's some hints that the Senate really didn't agree to that, but there was some persuasion, some underhanded, under-the-table type of persuasion, like taking votes when people aren't there or intimidation by General Alvarado. But they did vote to eliminate the SAC agreement, which means that SACs are now illegal. And so that clears the way for the NADF to just wipe them out. Just extract everybody, take over the land to give it to Camo so that they can farm it and get their minerals and all of that. So it's happening quickly. And so people are listening to the Sparrows. They're listening to Jude and Zara, and they are getting out ahead of time. They're trying to get out before the NADF shows up. But that is leading to a bunch of people streaming into cities who have never lived in cities before, and they don't know what's going on, and they're desperate to get any kind of help, like where are we going to live? How are we going to eat? Where are we going to go? And the Sparrows are coming together and saying, all right, we're going to create nests. We're going to create sparrow-friendly places in the cities where these people coming from the SACs can go and get help. They can find out how to get their, universal basic income and their cube if they need one, and where people can just open up their homes and take in these refugees from the country until they can find a place. And so the Sparrows are getting organized and trying to stay ahead of how fast the NADF is moving in wiping out the SACs. So that leads us to the next question. What are the Sparrows? They were just a group of kids helping SACs. Now they're the people from the SACs. They're the people in the cities. They're the people who are organizing to help each other in the face of government oppression. And so now the Sparrows are not just people in SACs. The Sparrows are people in nests in the cities, and their influence is growing. And even people who never lived in a SAC, but who live in the cities, they're very sympathetic to the Sparrows because they see what they're doing. They're basically helping people, and there's nothing wrong with that. So their influence is growing, and people who identify as Sparrows are now multiplying greatly, to the point that even that even elected officials are starting to identify with sparrows because it's popular. And people are even thinking about running for office and identifying as a sparrow. So the sparrows have now become a movement. And their main focus is to help people resettle and to help each other live when the government has not helped them or has even oppressed them. So we're on to the next chapter, and we're going to see exactly how this plays out and exactly how sparrows organize themselves. And we're going to see this movement start growing, and things are going to move quick, because if you thought wiping out the sacks was this entire story, actually, it's just the beginning of a much bigger story. So buckle up.